Three, two, one. Okay, hello. Today I'm drinking Schweppes lemonade with hibiscus. I really like it because it is banned in America, so it must be good. Today, I thought we would talk about the 10 biggest lies that we tell each other about alcohol. Brothers, sisters, comrades and friends, welcome to Bad Country.
Let the moonlight paint our two.
Alcoholism is at least partially defined by lying. We lie all the time, but it expands beyond alcoholism too. Even if you're not an alcoholic, even culturally, we tell each other lies about our alcohol consumption. And I thought I'd pick the 10 biggest ones today. Let's go. Number 1, everyone drinks. It's normal. Is it though? Is it normal to drink, especially to excess? Let's just start with the statistics straight out of the gate. 57% of people of drinking age in the world have never had an alcoholic drink. It's 43% of the world that does. Taken globally, the amount of people who don't drink hugely outweigh the amount of people who do. You think about it, it makes sense. In Europe, 72% of people drink, and in North America, it's about 60%. So not even everyone in really big drinking places like Europe and America, not even everyone drinks there. And then when you add to that the amount of places where people don't drink at all, like Islamic countries, where less than 5% of the population drink, then you can start to see that it's not normal. It's not correct to say that most people drink. In fact, most people do not. Number 2, alcohol helps you relax. Does it? As I said recently in one of my YouTube shorts, alcohol does not eradicate anxiety. In fact, what it does is it adds a layer. It adds a layer of obfuscation so that you don't feel the anxiety quite so much. It slows down your central nervous system. And that's what you feel as a lack of anxiety. But it's not really, because the anxiety is still there. Still there underneath, just accruing interest and building and growing. And every time you take a drink, every time you get drunk, you incur a debt to anxiety. It builds every time. If you're drinking to relieve your anxiety, it might be effective for the period that you are drunk. But after that, it comes back incrementally more every time. Every cycle of alcohol use, every cycle of drunkenness, anxiety returns more forcefully and more potently. So to say that alcohol relaxes you, it's not the truth. It's a lie, because you might feel more relaxed, but you are in fact building up anxiety. Number 3, alcohol helps me sleep. That's something that I've heard people say to each other very, very regularly. I need a drink to be able to sleep. But what it does isn't really sleep. It will help you lose consciousness. It will knock you out. And that's not good sleep. And in the meantime, it is absolutely disrupting your natural sleep cycles. When you drink and then fall asleep, you skip that REM period of sleep, in early sleep. You skip straight over that. And therefore, your sleep isn't really nutritious. Your sleep hygiene isn't very good. So you wake up feeling more tired, more anxious, and you convince yourself that you'll drink to sleep again, and then you are in the cycle. You will sleep. It takes a while for sleep to repair itself in sobriety, but when it does, I sleep like a baby. My dog is jealous of how much I sleep. And I can tell you, especially in withdrawal, in the first 5 or 6 days after you quit heavy drinking, the insomnia is brutal. I'm pretty confident that I didn't sleep for 5 days during a period of delirium tremens and alcoholic withdrawal. And that is enough alone to make you insane. Sleep deprivation is used as torture, but that's in the extreme cases. For most kind of daily drinkers, alcohol does not help you sleep. It harms your sleep. Number 4, you need to learn to drink in moderation. everybody can drink in moderation. No, they can't. And I disagree with the fallacy that everything in moderation, because I can point at a million things where even a moderate amount will kill you. Now, the truth is, I drink very moderate amounts, which is to say, none. I am the most moderate drinker because I don't drink at all. It's just not possible for some of us to drink in moderation ever again. And encouraging somebody who's struggling with alcohol to try to learn moderation is very dangerous advice. And think of it like this, right? So if we're talking about moderate drinking, and you think your pathway to healthy drinking is to say, right, I cannot drink more than 3 drinks tonight, or I will only drink on Friday nights and not at all in the week. If you need rules around your drinking, maybe the problem isn't the pattern of your drinking. Maybe it's the drinking itself. I advise most people to try abstinence before they try moderation. But then I am a chronic suicidal alcoholic, so I would say that, wouldn't I? Number 5, drinking gives me confidence. Does it? Are you really confident? Are you really confident? Okay, so this one needs a bit of explanation. That feeling of confidence, that thing that you call confidence when you're drinking, is not confidence by any definition. What it is a lack of inhibition. Alcohol cuts the brake lines on your brain, and you're no longer able to practice self-restraint or control your more impulsive behavior and decisions. That's not the same as confidence. That's a lack of inhibition. I had an old girlfriend who worked in palliative care with elderly people commonly with dementia and cognitive decline diseases of cognitive decline. And she would often come home and tell me outrageous stories that happened to her on a daily basis by people whose cognitive decline had impaired their personal inhibition. I'll be blunt about this. She would commonly encounter elderly men with dementia masturbating in front of her or exposing themselves to her or making very unwelcome sexual advances towards her. And I don't think anyone would describe that as confidence. That is a lack of inhibition. And that is more in line with the kind of behavior you exhibit when you're drunk. And that's, again, an extreme example. I tend to go to extremes. Hyperbole is a rhetorical device which demonstrates the absurdity of somebody's position. I deploy it regularly. And even though that's an extreme example, I think that you can bring it down to a more grounded level by comparing what confident behavior actually looks like versus what drunken behavior looks like. So confident behavior involves being persuasive, being charismatic, being organized in your thinking, and being confident in your own positions. It's difficult to describe confidence without using the word confident. So for example, if you're in a meeting at work, if you're in a kind of job that has meetings, and you put your opinion across clearly and with a sense of certainty, then people might describe you as confident. Your colleagues might say, "That country is a confident guy." But if I'm standing in traffic, naked, yelling my opinion, unsolicited at strangers, then I don't think people would say, "There goes Bat Country, he looks like a confident guy." They would say, "He looks like an insane alcoholic." Point is, alcoholic confidence is not real confidence. It is lack of inhibition, and there is an important distinction. Number 6, it's all about willpower. Sobriety is all about willpower. You can just kind of mindfulness yourself into sobriety. I think there is an element of willpower. There is also a big, at least for me, a massive component of personal responsibility and accountability. But you cannot overlook the way that alcohol changes the biochemistry of your brain. It changes your thinking, your behavior, your personality. Okay, so what I mean by that is that willpower is incredibly useful and it is incredibly powerful. But it's weighed up against the fact that alcohol, for as long as you've been drinking, has become your reward system. It has hijacked your dopamine reward system to give you a shot of dopamine every time you take a drink. That's what willpower is fighting against. And for a long time, until you get good at willpower in sobriety, that's a very, very, very difficult challenge. What alcoholism has done over the period of your drinking has been to replace your natural reward systems with alcohol. Your brain, your nervous system has come to rely on alcohol as an artificial source of dopamine. Willpower can't do that, not in the same way, not until you get really good at sobriety. In the early stages, willpower can only go so far, because the whole time it is wrestling against this kind of urge loop, this kind of loop of craving. It's very difficult. So yes, in later stages of sobriety, willpower becomes incredibly important. In the early stages, it's just not that simple. Number 7, alcohol is safer than drugs. The reality of this one is very simple. It's that alcohol is a drug. We tend not to think of it in terms of narcotics, and we don't put it in the same class as like heroin or cocaine or meth and speed, that kind of thing. And I think that's purely because alcohol is so much older. Recorded history of alcohol, of cultivation for alcohol, goes back 7,000 years in China. It's possible, of course, that hallucinogens were used in small communities, South America and Africa. But as far as we know, alcohol is the oldest cultivated mind-altering substance. And that makes it a tough little tick to dig out. Now that aside, the idea that it is safer somehow just because it's more accepted is also a lie. It is not safer. It is in fact, by any metric you can conjure up, one of the most dangerous and addictive substances on the planet. It causes far more deaths by an order of magnitude than opioids and fentanyl. I know everybody's worried about that at the moment, but alcohol far outstrips it. And then when you take into account alcohol-related accidents like car crashes and stuff like that, there is no competitor. And not to mention the direct effects are that it's linked to 200 different fatal diseases and 7 types of cancer. And what drug is there that's worse than that? Maybe if you're making heroin at home, like Crocodile in Russia, that just eats your tissue away. I think alcohol is just about the least safe thing you can put in your body over a long period. I would sum it up like this. If we hadn't had at least 7,000 years of alcohol cultivation, if it was invented today, it would certainly be a controlled substance. Number 8. You need to hit rock bottom before you quit. Another big and pernicious lie, both in alcohol and in sobriety. Now for me, I bounced along rock bottoms under rock bottoms. I found my rock bottom, kept digging down to the bottom of the Mariana Trench of rock bottoms, and eventually surfaced. And I needed that. But not everybody does. I see this idea that rock bottom is a requirement, or like a kind of qualification for sobriety. And that is not just unhelpful advice, it is actively dangerous. Not to mention, everybody gets to decide what their own rock bottom is, right? Whatever the cause of your sobriety, if you get sober, you're allowed to call whatever it was that caused that your rock bottom, even if it was just something mild like getting a reprimand at work or disappointing a loved one or something. That can be a rock bottom. It doesn't have to be a big dramatic prison cell in Kazakhstan like me. The simple fact of the matter about rock bottoms is that the earlier you quit, the easier it is to recover from alcohol. Dramatic stories like mine tend to overshadow the kind of more gentle, more reasonable alcoholic exits. The earlier you quit, the earlier you catch it, the better the outcome. You don't ever have to worry about whether you were an alcoholic or not afterwards. Just fuck all of that stuff. Number 9, I can quit anytime I want. Whew, that is one of the biggest lies any of us tell each other before we actually do quit. People say this and then never get sober. You notice that? People who say I can quit anytime I like tend to not quit. Alcohol is very, very good at giving you the feeling that you are in control, when in fact it is in control, or you have lost control to it. I would go so far as to say, to make a very bold claim, that if you are currently saying you can quit anytime you want, you have a problem. I don't mean to diagnose, I am not a medical doctor or a recovery professional of any sort, as you can see in the background. Maybe you can't. I sell dildos for a living. That is my qualification. My qualification is just experience and that's it. But I've heard the lie, I can quit anytime I want, so many times, only to see that person never even think seriously about quitting. In fact, it's only drunk people who say it. No one ever goes like 3 weeks sober and then says politely and calmly, I can quit at any time I like. No, you tend to hear it when someone is 11 beers in and it sounds more like, I can quit any time I like. And the simple response when someone says, I can quit any time I like, is to say, okay, but have you? You know, it reminds me of like modern art. People look at modern art and go, I could do that. Well, go on then. The same with children's books. Everyone thinks they can write a children's book. Go on then. Until you've done it, I don't want to hear it. And number 10, life without alcohol is boring. I will admit that my life was certainly more chaotic when I was an alcoholic, but sober life is not boring. I'm going to be blunt about this, because this one pops up in my emails and my comments with alarming regularity. Quite often I'm told that people are bored in sobriety, that they find life boring with alcohol, or they're worried that their life will be boring if they get sober. I'm sorry this is so blunt. If you are bored in sobriety, you are a boring person. Not to sound too woo-woo and mindful about it, but once you have a stint of sobriety, your life becomes so much more rich and fulfilling and exciting. And I would say yes, probably a little bit more inhibited and certainly less chaotic and less drama, but it's not boring. I think that life drunk is boring. Your senses, your experiences, your emotions are all numbed, all stamped down and suppressed by alcohol. And you're not able to engage with the amazingness of being alive at any given moment. Sobriety gives you some of that back. And it's really your responsibility to make your life less boring in sobriety. That's up to you to fix. It's not good enough to just complain about it. That doesn't help. It's not good enough to just say, I am bored. Do something about it. That boredom thing, that one's on you. Okay, so that is 10 lies that we tell each other about alcohol. What did I miss? Did I miss any particularly big ones? Perhaps you might want to leave some more in the comments and I'll return to this topic in a later video. In the meantime, if you've watched this far, please do like, subscribe, tell your friends, do all of the YouTube stuff that I still don't fully understand, despite having done this for a year and a half. Thank you for watching, and as always, good luck out there.